William Shakespeare was an English poet and playwright, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's preeminent dramatist. He is often called England's national poet and the Bard of Avon. His surviving works, including some collaborations, consist of 38 plays, 154 sonnets, 2 long narrative poems, and several other poems. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any other playwright. Shakespeare was born on Stratford-upon-Avon. At the age of 18, he married Anne Hathaway, with whom he had 3 children, Susanna and twins Hamnet and Judith. Between 1585 and 1592, he began a successful career in London as an actor, writer, and part owner of playing company called Lord Chamberlain's Men, later known as the King's Men. He appears to have retired to Stratford around 1613, where he died 3 years later. Few records of Shakespeare's private life survive, and there has been considerable speculation about such matters as his physical appearance, sexuality, religious beliefs, and whether the works attributed to him were written by others. Shakespeare produced most of his own work between 1589 and 1613. His early plays were mainly comedies and histories, genres he raised to the peak of his sophistication and artistry by the end of the 16th century. He then wrote mainly tragedies until about 1608, including Hamlet, King Lear, and Macbeth, considered some of the finest works in the English language. In his last phase, he wrote tragicomedies, also known as romances, and collaborated with other playwrights. Many of his plays were published in editions of varying quality and accuracy during his lifetime. In 1632, 2 of his former theatrical colleagues published First Folio, a collected edition of his dramatic work that included all but 2 of the plays now recognized as Shakespeare's. Shakespeare was a respected poet and playwright during his own day, but his reputation did not rise to his present day until the 19th century. The Romantics in particular acclaimed Shakespeare's genius, and the Victorians worshipped Shakespeare with a reverence that George Bernard Shaw called ordatry. Ordatry is a term that refers to the excessive adulation of William Shakespeare, combining the words bard and idolatry. Shakespeare has been known as the Bard since the 19th century. His work was repeatedly adopted and rediscovered by new movements in scholarship and performance. His plays remain highly popular today and are constantly studied, performed, and reinterpreted in diverse cultural and political contexts throughout the world. The first of his plays I would like to talk to you about is Antony and Cleopatra. Antony and Cleopatra is a tragedy by William Shakespeare, believed to have been written sometime between 1603 and 1607. It was first printed in the First Folio of 1623. The plot is based on Thomas North's translation of Plutarch's life of Marcus Antonius and follows the relationship between Cleopatra and Mark Antony from the time of the Parthian War to Cleopatra's suicide. Now I'll give you a short summary of Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar is a tragedy by William Shakespeare, believed to have been written in 1599. It portrays the conspiracy against the Roman dictator Julius Caesar, his assassination, and its aftermath. It is one of the several Roman plays that he wrote based on true events from Roman history, which is also included Coriolanus and Antony and Cleopatra. Although the title of the play is Julius Caesar, Caesar is not the central character in its action. He appears in only 3 scenes and is killed in the beginning of the 3rd scene. The protagonist of the play is Marcus Brutus, and the central psychological drama in his struggle between the conflicting demands of honor, patriotism, and friendship. Now I would like to talk to you about the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy written early in the career of playwright William Shakespeare about 2 young star-crossed lovers whose deaths ultimately unite their feuding families. It is among Shakespeare's most popular plays during his lifetime, along with Hamlet. Macbeth is one of the most frequently performed plays. Shakespeare's use of dramatic structure, especially effects such as switching between comedy and tragedy, to heighten tension. His expansion of minor characters and his use of subplots to embellish the story has been praised as an early sign of his dramatic skill. The play ascribes different poetic forms to different characters, sometimes changing the form as the characters develops. Romeo, for example, grows more adept at the sonnet over the course of the play. Romeo and Juliet has been adapted numerous times for stage, film, musical, and opera. During its restoration, it was revived, heavily revised by William Devaney. David Garrick's 18th century version also modified several scenes, removing material then considered indecent, and Gregor Benda's operatic adaptation omitted much of the action and added a happy ending. The next play will be Hamlet, a tragedy by William Shakespeare. Hamlet is a tragedy by William Shakespeare believed to have been written between 1599 and 1601. The play, set in Denmark, recounts how Prince Hamlet exacts revenge on his uncle Claudius for murdering the old King Hamlet. Claudius' own brother and Prince Hamlet's father, and then succeeding to the throne and marrying Gertrude, King Hamlet's widow, and mother of Prince Hamlet. The play vividly charts the course of real and feigned madness, from overwhelming grief to seething rage, and explores themes of treachery, revenge, incest, and moral corruption. The play's structure and depth of characterization have inspired much critical scrutiny, of which one example is a centuries-old debate about Hamlet's hesitancy to kill his uncle. Some see it as a plot devised to prolong the action, and others see it as a result of pressure exerted by the complex philosophical and ethical issues that surround cold-blooded murder, calculated revenge, and thwarted desire. More recently, psychoanalytical critics have examined Hamlet's unconscious desires, and feminist critics have reevaluated and rehabilitated the often maligned character